Hello and welcome back to another episode of Winners One Gospel Love Edition. I am Caitlin.
I am Adamis.
And I'm Coach D.
Got Spanish with it today?
A little bit. I like to do that every now and then. Mess with you a little bit.
I should have said Dimeris.
Oh.
See?
Yeah. Would have flowed.
Drop the ball.
That's all right. Mine's not cute in Spanish. I mean, Kayleen.
Okay.
Sounds Asian.
Yep.
Kayleen.
Yep. That's how her grandma said.
That's how grandma said.
Yeah, that's
Kayleen.
That's cute.
But today we are continuing our conversations on preparing the unmarried for marriage series. I think we are three episodes in now.
Yes, 3. Yeah.
3, yep. And where we left off last week, we went through the goal of a lover, the oneness, the life, the legacy, identifying as a lover. We started. That's a big one. So we're continuing on with that. And where'd you say we left off last week? I think.
Hoping as a lover is where we left off last week. So we're on to believing as a lover.
Believing, thinking,
and speaking.
Speaking, possessing. And I think it's important that we say this, that when it comes to the whole idea of marriage being made for lovers and the idea of preparing the unmarried for marriage, it's important.
Yeah.
Like, it's very important because we're at war with the divorce culture. Like the divorce culture and society has a mind or a perspective of the institution or the mechanism of marriage that God instituted as being wrong.
But aren't Christians a peaceful people? Like, aren't we supposed to just, let everybody just live and...
Well, that's what the religious folk will tell you. That's
You're supposed to love everybody.
Yeah,
there's no war in love, right?
But that's what the folk will tell you who don't know the Bible, who don't know the Word, that this is a warfare from the very beginning. The whole idea of God saying that the woman's son his heel will bruise your head is an indication of that's going to be a fight. Like when someone's heel is bruising another person's head on animal's head.
That's intentional.
That's I'm trying to hurt you.
Right.
I'm trying to destroy you.
Right.
Right. And it was talking about the kingdom of God overcoming the kingdom of darkness, the kingdom of light overcoming the kingdom of darkness, the kingdom of his dear son overcoming the kingdom that Satan has put in place, which we reference as the world, which is a systematic way or an orderly arrangement is the idea for the word world in the Greek is an orderly arrangement. It's a methodology. It's a way of doing things. It's a way of thinking about things. And the way the unrenewed mind thinks about marriage becomes a detriment within our society, because marriage is the mechanism by which God intended for all of society to function from.
Yep.
The mechanism of marriage. Everybody was supposed to come through that canopy or that womb or that cocoon to experience life comes from a marriage. So if the family, we were talking last week on our Coffee and Morning Club, that the warfare and the thing that the enemy hates the most. And when we talk about the enemy, we're talking about the personality behind what we call the world, which the Bible refers to as Satan. Well, there's people who have the same mind that Satan has. So we can actually break that down, practically speaking, to religious, to organizations, religious groups, factions, clubs, institutions, nationalities. Like, you can break that down, because when we say that the warfare is against loving, it's against loving. If the enemy can eliminate anything out of society, it would be loving. Because if he can eliminate loving, he can eliminate the God imprint on society. Right. So that's what the warfare is against. It's not our anger, it's not our frustration, it's not our disappointment, it's not our violence, it's not our hatred that the enemy doesn't want to see manifested. It's loving. The most dangerous thing, weapon, entity in life when it comes to the war between God and Satan is loving. Right? If you break that down, nationality against nationality, if you pit white against black, it's not the black on black violence that white America fears. It's when black America is loving each other like we're supposed to love each other.
Yep.
It's not the love between a husband and wife. Well, it's not the hate between a husband and wife. It's not the fussing and the arguing between a husband and a wife that the adversary to marriage fears. It's when they're loving each other. That's the most powerful thing we can do as a people, as a husband and wife, is love each other the way we're supposed to love each other.
Right.
And when you pit that against the kingdom of darkness toward the kingdom of light, and you pit that against the warfare that's taking place between God and Satan, and the unrenewed mind and the renewed mind as it relates to marriage, it's critically important to rescue those that are headed in the direction that's going to cause them to experience the misery that leads to divorce as well as divorce. Because he don't just want you to divorce, he wants you to suffer while you're on your way to divorce. He wants you to be unhappy. He wants the sex to be sad. He wants the economy to be broke. He wants your social communication to be corrupt. Like, he wants you to suffer on the way to divorce.
He wants you scarred.
He wants you scarred, mutilated, beaten, beat down, tired. So even after divorce, you ain't no good.
Right.
Right? Like, that's how wicked it is, but we don't see it as that. So it behooves us to equip and prepare lovers, couples who are grown in love together, to avoid the pitfalls and death and destruction that's connected to the unrenewed minds aspect of what marriage. Like practically speaking, the unrenewed mind says marriage is hard. The unrenewed mind says, the first 3 years is going to be hard. The unrenewed mind says that marriage ain't for everybody. The unrenewed mind.
Yep.
Right. That is critical when it comes to understanding how God wants things to be. If your mind has not been renewed, Paul says you can't understand the will of God. If your mind hasn't been renewed, you can't tap into the life and the resource that the kingdom has for you. If your mind hasn't been renewed, you can't go back to the original way God intended for things to be.
Right.
Right. Most folks make statements. I know we came down on the statement the one time about people saying marriage is hard and you need more than love. Like, that's the unrenewed mind. That's the unrenewed mind. Right. But to renew the mind of the unmarried before they get married is the goal, because that puts us in front of this divorce culture. And so I want to say that because it's important that what we're dealing with is equipping and empowering the unmarried for marriage by helping to identify what marriage demands of you.
Right.
If you can identify with who marriage demands you to be, right? Marriage is going to demand of you to be who God created you to be. Because he created marriage for lovers.
Yep. You got to know the job description.
Right. He ain't gonna give you a job that you're not equipped for.
Right.
Matter of fact, he's gonna design the job around your equipping. Hey, what's up, fam? Today's Winners One podcast is brought to you by our Coffee in the Morning Club. Listen, they say right now the divorce rate is anywhere between 58 and 62%, depending on the community or the culture you grew up in. But they say that rate is drastically reduced if you are a couple who finds a community of like-minded couples. We have a Coffee in the Morning Club marriage enrichment community of couples who are driven to have a faith-based marriage. This is a marriage that's based upon the principles that God ordained for marriage to be about. If you want your marriage to be drastically reduced from running into chaos, confusion, and trouble, you need to join this community. It is our Coffee in the Morning Club community that will enrich you and empower you and strengthen you to win and make marriage easy. Think about that, Kaylin. He designed the responsibility of marriage around what he empowered you to be already. See, we think we made this statement that marriage was made for man. Man wasn't made for marriage. He crafted marriage around the strengths, the giftings, the qualities, the abilities, the capacities that he created man with. Everything was created to bring man pleasure. Marriage was made for man. Man wasn't made for marriage. But only the unrenewed mind can see it like that.
Right.
Only the renewed mind, I should say.
Right. Yeah.
Only the renewed mind. The unrenewed mind don't see it like that.
Right. They see it as this entity that you become a part of.
Yeah. That you make yourself fit into.
Right.
I hope I've been saying that right. I hope I've been saying the renewed mind versus I think I've been saying that wrong. Backwards. But it's about the renewed mind versus the unrenewed mind. Right? Paul said if your mind ain't renewed, you can't know the will of God. So when I hear somebody talking about, well, marriage is hard, I know, man, they mind ain't right.
Right.
How can you listen to that person?
Right.
Because they're coming from an unrenewed, they can't give you the will of God. It's like our brother, we were just watching Brother Myron Golden before we came on. He said, when you get a good coach who's coming from the a mind renewed perspective, everything he do is going to be counterintuitive to what you've heard up to this point.
Yep.
It's going to be counterintuitive to what you've heard.
Yeah.
Because you've been hearing stuff that came from the unrenewed mind perspective. But when you get a coach that has his mind renewed, I'm talking about a faith-based coach that has their mind renewed to what the will of God is designed to be in a situation. Now it's going to be like, wait a minute. We was just talking, we was in the Coffee Morning Club, sister, one of our sisters on the show, she's like, when she first heard me say marriage is hard, she's like, what are you talking about? What do you mean marriage is easy? What are you talking about? Marriage is hard.
Right.
But it took her hearing me talk about it and explain it and get it out there that she realized, he get it now. She started to see it now. She see it from the right perspective. When we say marriage is easy, we're talking about God's original intent for it.
Right.
That don't mean your marriage at this point practically can't be hard.
Right.
But there's a reason why it's hard.
Right. Right.
Now let's get down to the reason.
Right.
Let's get down to the reason. If we can deal with the reason why it's hard, because we know God didn't intend it to be hard. If we can get down to the reason why you think it's hard, and we can eliminate that reason, now it becomes easy.
Right.
Right? And to present this whole new paradigm of thinking to the unmarried before they get married, how much easier is it going to be for them?
That's the key. That's the key. I mean, we said that too, because we were like, when we first started this and you said marriage is easy, I looked at him like, no, it ain't.
We
It's
got
not.
proof it's not, D.
Yeah.
So we got.
We can prove it. We can prove it to you.
Yes.
It's not. We can prove it.
You can look at us and see
We can prove
it.
it. I can prove it to
Easy
you.
at all.
But we went through the same thing. We had to renew our minds, and once we did, it was like, oh.
Right.
He's onto something.
Well, that's why Jesus started his ministry off. He started his business off, his coaching. Jesus had a coaching business. He started his coaching business off by saying, repent. He started off by saying this, repent.
Change your mind.
Right? You got to change your mind. Change the way you think. Matter of fact, you got to go all the way back to the original way God intended for you to think. When the folks came to him about marriage, and they were talking about Moses gave us a note that we can divorce folks. He said, Moses, he gave you that because of the hardness of your heart. You was going to do it anyway. I don't care what Moses, he was going to do it. But Moses said, okay, y'all going to do it. He just gave you some parameters so you wouldn't get ignorant with it.
Right.
Right? He said he gave you a bill of divorcement for fornication or adultery. He said, but they wanted to get rid of him because she burned the chicken. Right? They wanted to get rid of him because she didn't do this right. No. He says, but go back to the beginning. He said, in the beginning, it wasn't that way. You got to go back to God's original mind for the particular thing. And that's the renewed mind. The renewed mind goes back to the origin of thought that God had for economics, for your husbandry, for wifery, for fatherly, for being a mother. Like, you got to go back to God's original way.
If you're talking about, not if, because we're talking about it from the origin perspective, right? How is it possible to separate from your own rib? As a rib, how is it possible to separate from the body you were created from? Like, if we're really thinking about the essence of this whole entire thing, how is it possible to separate from that which you were created from?
Right.
Like,
right.
That needs it really needs to be that deep, and that's what we're talking about. Is when you repent and you return to the original way of thinking. We're talking about spiritual warfare. We're talking about the original way of thinking. Like, it is that deep. It is literally that deep. When you think about divorcing somebody, the idea of it should just not be possible. It shouldn't, scientifically, it shouldn't be possible, because if you see yourself as the rib, if you see yourself as man, if you see yourself as originally being one, to separate you from you, what you gonna do with that?
You just hit the nail on the head. You just hit the nail on the head. The reason it's so easy is because they haven't become one. See, we think the sex means we become one. That's the icing on the cake.
Right.
That's the icing on the cake. The oneness starts in the spirit and what you believe.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about, one of the things we're talking about is the believing of a lover. It's what you believe. It's believing the same thing. You got some folks may go to different churches, different denominations.
Wow.
Don't believe God. Don't believe like.
Didn't you have that one friend I think she didn't even believe in God or something, and he did. You don't remember?
Some folks Baptist,
yeah.
some folks Catholic.
Yeah.
No, y'all, that ain't. Like, go to the Bible. You gotta go to the Bible. You gotta go to the Bible. Back to denominations.
Yeah.
Like so they never became one. Right? That's really when you really separate. The mechanism of marriage isn't hard. It's the oneness becoming one that they call hard, being hard.
Yeah.
It's laying down what you think marriage should be and taking up what God thinks marriage would be. It's laying down how you think a wife should act and taking up what God thinks how a wife should. I'm talking about the husband. Well, my wife should do this. Well, based off of who? Based off what? Hey, what's up? Coach D here. Listen, I got something I need to say to you real quick. Listen, marriage is made for lovers. Now, once you understand that marriage is made for lovers and you're not listening to them folks that keep saying you need more than love to make marriage work, you have to identify as a lover. Once you identify as a lover, now you got to learn what love is. Guess what? We have something for you that can help you understand exactly what love is in its most comprehensive nature. It's so much more than just an emotion. But you got to get the book to find out exactly what God's intent was for love and how it functions. Thanks. Get the book. God bless. Based off what you want? No, you got to go to the Word. You got to lay down what you think a wife is supposed to be. Forget about what you saw mama being a daddy. Forget about what you dreamed. What does the Word of God say? And then once we embrace that, then it's not hard.
Right.
Right? It's like we were talking about the other day. If anybody, the content and the message that God has given us for faith-based marriage, if anybody should be embracing this, like if anybody should be hungry for this, it should be Christian marriages.
Yeah.
Folks who call themselves having a Christian marriage. You can't function in a Christian-based marriage without faith, without knowing the faith-based marriage.
But I think a lot of that is like the greater populace of Christians, right? Christians, they still operate in the realm of God doing for them.
Right.
God doing,
a renewed mind.
God's in control. God's,
Right.
So when it comes to a marriage, it's, well, I'm just going to pray and God will move
God
on his
fix
heart
it.
and God will do, stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, they still operate from the unrenewed mind. And we did a whole series on that. And that is the key, that until I ascertain God's mind on the functionality of a husband and the functionality of a wife under the umbrella of a marriage, it can be hard. But that don't mean marriage is hard. That don't mean oneness is hard. That means you hard. You brittle.
Right.
You unbreakable.
Yeah.
That's on you.
Yep.
And had I talked to you before you got married, I wouldn't have married you. That's why we're preparing the unmarried for marriage.
Right.
That's why we're going through the series of, first and foremost, helping them to identify who marriage is going to demand of them to be.
Right.
And that's simply who God created you to be, a lover. Right? And as we've gone through these different characteristics and these aspects, we talked about who marriage is for. We talked about the goals of a lover. We talked about identifying. We stopped at believing, and the believing of a lover is critical. Like they believe in a passionate way. They believe with conviction. They believe that strengthens their relationship. It's what they believe about their marriage. It's what they believe about their husband. It's what they believe about their spouse. It's what you believe your marriage is supposed to be. What do you believe? Well, believing comes by hearing. What are you hearing marriage is supposed to be like? How are you hearing husbandry is supposed to be? How are you hearing you're supposed to function as a wife? What are you hearing?
I like Caitlin's example from this morning. She heard you on the phone with Leslie, and Leslie was kind of giving you the business, and your reaction to it was just, like you was just calm, loving, and I ended up paying for that in the long run.
Baby saw that, she's like, oh, I can talk like that? Oh yeah. He finna get it now. He finna get it. But see, what they got to understand, what's important about that is the culture.
Yeah.
It's the culture. We create a culture of love. What we're talking about another aspect of the identifying as a lover, and just for further clarity, when we talk about identifying as a lover, we're talking about the characteristics, the traits. It's one thing to identify as a lover. It's another thing to embrace the embodiment of what how a lover functions. And it's being that lover. And so we were talking about hoping, hearing, believing, thinking, and then we were talking about speaking today on the call, and how a lover creates an atmosphere and an environment where because of what they've spoken, that there's a confidence, there's a boldness in that culture of love that a lover can have, whether it's the husband or the wife. Just like God says, he tells us that he said, come boldly before the throne of grace. Like God says, come boldly, ask me whatever you want to ask me. Say whatever you want to say, come boldly. Like, because I love you. You don't have to worry about anything you say to me that's going to cause me not to love you. That's going to cause me to get so upset with you that I ain't going to speak to you for 3 or 4 days. That's not how God operates. That's not how the love of God functions. So we create a culture of love that causes there to be a boldness by the beloved or by the lover to say, and again, I don't want to go too far over into it to where we say, well, I'm just going to tell you how I feel. No. I ain't saying that.
Right.
What I'm saying is you can have a boldness to say, as eventually y'all got to, when you would say to Caitlin, well, can you see I'm changing? Nope.
Just flat out.
Nope. Right? But the comfortability to know that she's not going to be looked at funny. She's not going to be ridiculed. She's not going to be treated in the wrong way because she's expressed to you a level of purity and forthrightness that comes from the culture of loving. And so when she saw Leslie correct me on something or whatever it was, and I'm okay, right? Okay, I'm good with that. Like, I don't have a problem being wrong.
That was a culture shock for me, I have to say, 100%, because I knew I couldn't say half that stuff to how you used to be. Yeah. And I might have even jumped the gun a little bit because I saw that and I was like, oh, I could talk like that?
Right. right now.
Because he was still renewing his mind, he still would respond in that way. I was like, okay, so maybe I can't do that yet.
Right.
But we got to the point.
You know what's crazy about that is that she told me about that instance, right? And I had connected the two when I saw her start to act like that.
You saw it, okay.
Yeah, and I noticed it, and so while it bothered me, essentially that was her believing as a lover that I was going to be at that point where she could be free to just be who she want to be, and I'm going to love her regardless.
Right. No, that's good.
That's good. Like that's the perfect point to think from is that point of believing. Like, look, this is the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to be this way, and he going to get there.
And you're going to catch up eventually.
No, but that's how it's supposed to be, though.
Right.
Like, when we're believing, but when we have a renewed mind about marriage, right? And it's not just with Leslie, it's with y'all, it's with Justin, it's with the Grant. Like, I love the idea. There's no greater feeling that I can get as a lover is to know that you feel free to express in front of me, no matter what it is. Like, that's it. Like speak your mind. Like, I want to hear it. Like, I want to know it. We were talking about a lover hearing, the hearing of a lover. A lover hears, like a lover hears with an intent. Like a lover hears, they're keen on hearing. Because they want, in hearing, you learn how to love. Right. In hearing, I learn what you need to be the best version of you need to be. In hearing, right? If you got someone who calls themselves being interested in you and they don't hear with intent what you're saying, then they don't really care to please you, right? One of the things we talked about today was the language, the speaking of a lover. It's built into a lover's speech. Is when I'm speaking to you, you get the sense that I'm more interested in you than I am in myself. When I'm speaking to you from a lover, you get the sense that I care about more what you need than I care about what I need. Well, that's how a lover speaks. You ain't got to try to do it. It's built into a lover's speaking. Right. It's when I'm speaking to you, you feel like, man. It's like one of our dear sister Daniela, when she first started coming around us, we were so willing to help her. She couldn't believe. She was like, y'all just want to help me? Y'all just like the way we were speaking to her was like we cared more about her business than we did about our business. Right. We cared more about helping because that's what lovers do. They it's built into their speaking that they speak in a way that makes the person feel that they're speaking to like they're cared for, like they're loved, like that that they want to be satisfied, like you matter. That's how a lover speaks. When you have that between a husband and a wife, imagine you as a wife speaking to your husband as if his every need was on your mind, and as a husband, her every need was on your mind. Like it's like that changes the whole atmosphere. But that's identifying as a lover. Now, if you don't identify as a lover, if you don't be the lover God has called you to be, you won't do what the thing the lover has called you to do. And I like the point we brought out today as far as the difference in being and doing. A lot of folks think Doing makes them a better beer. I'm gonna talk
You're
funny
gonna get in
for
trouble
a
for
minute.
this one. Yeah,
I'm gonna talk funny for a minute, right?
That's good.
Everything we do was designed to come out of being.
Yeah.
That's why God said be first. The first thing he told us was be. Everything, he says light, be. So light being light enabled creation to come forth. Right? Man being man, lovers being lovers enables marriage to be what God wants it to be. Well, we made a statement like we got to be better beers. Well, how do you become a better beer? Most folks think becoming a better beer, i.e. lover, means doing what a lover does. No, you don't get become a better beer by doing. That which is natural is natural. That which is spiritual is spiritual. Being is a spiritual thing. Doing is a natural thing. You become better at doing by doing, but to the surprise of the group this morning, you become better at being. And we built it up because it's so easy. But we want life to be hard.
Oh yeah.
Because life been hard for you. You want to tell everybody else it's hard. Just because it was hard for you don't mean it's going to be hard for me. I might have a different level of knowledge.
Right.
Because we know what makes life hard, what makes life destructive is lack of knowledge.
Yep.
So because I have a different level of knowledge, it might not be hard for me. Better being is the outcome of better hearing. If I hear better, I'll be better. God has designed it so that being derives from hearing.
Right.
What are you hearing? Will determine what you will be being. What you being will determine what you do. What you do will produce the marriage that you'll have.
Right.
But we have to be hearers. Hearers bleed right over into being. Being bleeds over into doing. Doing bleeds over into having. The marriage you desire.
Yep.
So when we talk about all of these different aspects and characteristics of being a lover, right? The one thing that I don't want people to do is to hear us talk about when they identify as a lover hears with an intention. A lover hopes exceedingly. A lover believes passionately. A lover thinks from the perspective of how to love. A lover speaks with clarity and confidence and certainty, and there's a comfort when a lover speaks. There's a comfort when a lover speaks. Like there's a comfort. Like when she runs to you and you respond to her, there's a comfort.
Yeah.
There's a comfort she should, like when you go to her, there's a comfort you bring to him. There's a calm because of love. You love her.
Yep.
If that's not happening, don't feel bad. Don't think you're not good enough. Don't think you deserve to be punished or whatever it is. Because we're all, wherever we are, on the levels of loving. We
Right.
brought that out this morning. There's 3 levels of loving. Right? There's 3 levels to the will of God. The good, the very good, and the perfected. Right? Wherever you are is where you are. You can get better. Paul said, make our love to increase and abound. Right? So there's ways we can get better at loving. And so we want to be clear that people don't panic and they get frustrated with themselves and with their spouse because they're hearing us talk about these traits of identifying as a lover, and these things should be manifested. If you've identified as a lover, these are the things that you should be manifesting. People get frustrated and they get upset with themselves because it's not happening the way they think it's supposed to happen. Right? So we want to be sure people ain't, jumping out the window and calling it quits too soon.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
So we need to kind of speed this up a little bit because we got 2 minutes, and this is episode 3 on identifying.
Well, we kind of touched on everything, right?
Possessing? Did we get to possessing?
We didn't get to possessing
That's
as a lover. And it just speaks to, we won't have time to get into it because, so the idea is I want to possess. You want to possess the heart of your spouse. Like I want the heart. Like I'm after the heart. Right? What did God say that turned him on about David? Like if you want to turn your spouse on, man, we just you got me going.
You give him a little taste of this for next episode.
So if you want to turn your spouse on, right? David is representative of the church in his life, right? And you have David's relationship with God, right? David, it represents how the church is supposed to pursue God, right? God represents the husband. David represents the wife as the church. If you want to move your husband, if you want to move your wife, make them aware that you're after their heart. I'm after your heart. I'm not just after your body. I'm not just after the physical pleasure you can bring me. I want your heart. Like, I want your heart. I want your mind. I want your emotions. I want to know the things you desire. That's what I'm after. You revolutionized marriage. I'm after the heart. God says, I'm going to make that boy a king. He's singing to me. He blowing me kisses. He out there dancing in front of me when ain't nobody looking. He out there with the sheep doing all that. He worshiping me. He writing me love songs. He writing me love letters. Like, as a husband, I do that kind of stuff. Send me a lovely text. I'm after your heart.
That's right.
I'm a romancer. Love's a romancer. He exalted him to be rule over Egypt. He says, that's going to be my example of how my people are supposed to pursue me. When you demonstrate a level of pursuing the heart of a woman, you demonstrate a level of pursuing the heart of a husband. Like, I'm after your heart. Man, they'll open up everything else to you. You talk about, you want to make it easy. You want to make it easy to get her to chase you and open herself up and open up that thigh to you.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I said it.
Oh, man.
You want to get it, open that thing up? I'm talking about open that thing up easy.
Oh, my goodness.
Go after a heart. Go after a heart. Hear like a lover
hears. We made it through a
hears.
whole episode.
Almost.
Hear how a lover hears. Touch like a lover touches.
Yeah.
Speak like a lover speaks. Believe like a lover believes. Man, she'll open that thing up to you easy. You won't have to.
No, I'm just going to cut it right now. I'm just going to cut
All
it
right,
right
we'll
now.
get into that next time.
Yes, well, to a degree. So thank you so much for joining us. CoffeeInTheMorningClub.com. Please make sure you are joining us. That way we can have these
No, but
conversations.
seriously, now I got to jump in on that.
Oh, dear.
You know, y'all heard the calls we was getting 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Folks ain't giving the sex up. Folks fight. It's a fight because you ain't doing right. See, we think making the wife give it to me like I want it, or making a husband give it to me like I want it means tell me, well, you ain't giving it to me like I want it. I want you to give it. That ain't going. No. You don't get better at being by doing.
Right.
If I can get her to be a better lover, if I can get him to be the lover that, like, a lover aims to please at every level.
Yep.
A lover aims to serve at every level. If you go after a heart, what did God say to Solomon, who again is representative of the church, David's son? He says, because you after my heart, because you took after your daddy, and you want wisdom and understanding and knowledge, I'm gonna give you everything else. You go after the heart, she'll give. She'll give.
To divert attention away from that point right there.
Still, you better stop.
She'll get to you.
I wanted to make this point earlier. Whenever I'm on point, right? I say whenever, like it's few and far between.
Man, folks start tooting that thing out in front of you. Folks start putting it out there like ooh, look
there's
at
a difference. There's a difference, right? But there's also like you can see
man.
it's evident that Caitlin will have a mindset to serve, to please, to comfort, to be all up in my face. Like that's the way it's supposed to be though. If I'm thinking of her first, if I'm thinking of her needs, if I'm showing her that listen, you are on my mind all the time. You are, all of your needs are on my mind. I'm trying to constantly, speak the best things I can speak to you, to encourage you, to give you confidence, to whatever, right? All of that stuff, like we talked about before, woman is the multiplier, right? So all that stuff gets multiplied and it comes back to me. Now, here was the kicker for me, and I just realized while you were talking, there's a whole industry born from that. It's the hospitality industry, right? And when you think of people's expectations of when they go to anywhere that they get served, they want the best.
Right.
They want the best of the best of the best, right? Well, in marriage, the way to get that is by all these things that we've identified here. Identifying as a lover produces all these aspects of how you love, which produces that multiplication and brings it back upon you as a husband.
Or vice versa as a wife.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, men
You're
are not
speaking for
multipliers,
initiator
but
for-
yeah,
initiator
right.
for-
As an initiator, like I'm giving that regardless.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I just
And it's gonna
And-
come back in a different form in a different body.
Yeah, and it's not to be confused. It's not like I'm intentionally, or the woman, you shouldn't intentionally hold out until he does right. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
right,
not
right,
saying,
right,
you know,
right.
well,
Yeah.
when he does this, this, and this, then I'll give it back. But it's something that naturally happens
Yeah.
when I can feel it, and it makes me want to just open up even more.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's when you're identified as a lover and you're functioning, you're being a lover. If you're identified as a lover and you're being a lover, it's a natural connection.
Yeah.
It's a natural flow into me letting you know I'm after your heart. And you're responsible because you're after my heart, then I'm gonna give you my body too.
Yeah, I didn't want people to be confused, like you hold out until,
No,
you know,
that's not how it
so-
works.
Yeah.
No, it's not how either
That's
way.
that's how a lot of people see
That's
it,
how they
though.
marry. That's how
they're-
they function.
They're both functioning simultaneously.
Right. Well, you listen to the folks. You listen to the folks that's talking about couples now. Well, if he ain't doing this, then you don't do this.
Right.
If he ain't doing this, then he
Girl,
don't
if you
deserve
ain't
that.
paying the bills and you ain't.
You know what I'm saying? Like all of those things. Like that's how they're building what we call a works-based marriage.
That's my voice for that's my
Yeah.
voice for those
Say,
people.
like, what? Who's saying that? Talking like that.
They're not building a
Let
faith-based
me
marriage.
live.
Right.
Right.
They're building a works-based marriage.
Right.
And most folks have a works-based marriage, where he do this, then I'll do that. She do this, then I'll do that.
Right.
Well, I bring 50%, she bring 50%. That's what folks are being taught.
Yeah.
And they get inside of this mechanism of marriage, and marriage don't work like that.
Right.
I'm giving 100% whether you giving 100% or not,
Right.
right? And you don't find that out in what they call the dating stage, right? You find that out when you get knee deep into this thing, and we're bonding and we're becoming one. And now I see, man. I just like we say this all the time, and we can close it with this, right?
Thank you.
The agony of a lover is not being able to love. It's not being able to love. Like we were saying it today, that a lover speaks with clarity. Because I don't want there to be any confusion. I want it to be clear. I want you to know, because I don't want anything to interrupt me from being able to love. Right? That's what sustains marriage. Is I'm a lover, and I don't want anything to disrupt me from loving. Why would God create an institution we call marriage, make it hard so that it can interrupt me from being able to love? Because that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's the enemy wants to interrupt loving within the confines of marriage.
Yeah.
And God would never do that.
Right. So we're gonna wrap it up for today.
Because I go on and on and
You
on
sure can.
talking about love.
Yeah.
That's why we wrote the book.
That's why I wrote the book.
Yeah, we
What
need to
love
hold
is.
that up. Yeah.
What
love
That
is.
book right
love
there.
is.
Link will be at the bottom, or in the description,
in the
I should say.
description,
Link will be in the description. What love is. Make sure you are clicking, buying. It is.
Now, after everything
it's a
we just talked
necessity.
about, identifying as a lover, and we tell folks we wrote a comprehensive book about loving, and they don't go buy it, and they don't go get it.
Rejecting.
It ain't on God.
That's on them. Yeah.
Right.
Let's maybe hold the book up and hold it still this time, so that people can see like the title and stuff.
Well, I mean, the link is in the
I'm just
description.
saying.
That's the editor in you.
The
I'm just
link
saying.
is in the description, so they can see all they want of the book by clicking it
I get
and
it.
buying it.
You are
And they
absolutely
can hold
right.
it in their own hands.
Thank you for holding it up, baby. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but that's a great point for us to emphasize as we close. Is
Stop saying
For the
close.
third time.
We'll get there when we get
is-
there.
But no, we talked about being a lover. We talked about the traits of a lover. We talked about identifying as a lover. Then we let you know that there's a revelation that we have, and I say this to the glory of God, the most comprehensive revelation on love you probably ever read in your life.
Yep.
Until we write the next edition.
Amen.
Is this, and you don't go buy it? Like,
You ain't serious.
you playing.
Yeah.
You haven't fully yet identified as a lover, and this is not a sales thing for me. I'm forever. If that wasn't our book, I would say that about somebody else. But people of God lack knowledge, not because God didn't make it available to them. It's because they rejected it. They didn't act on it. When he presented it to them, they didn't go and consume it. They didn't listen to the prophet when he spoke. They didn't go out to hear the prophet speak. They rejected it. They let something else get in them. They were distracted.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, rejecting is not just choosing not to, pick up a book and read it. It's being passive about it. It's being, it's getting the book and setting it down and saying, oh, I'm gonna watch TV, and I'll get to it later.
Yeah.
Like it's like you said, the distractions, letting stuff get in the way of what the main pursuit should be.
And then them folk end up in divorce court. You know the unrenewed mind tell them, well, that must have been God's will for y'all to get divorced. No, God works. What did my boy say? God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Everything happens, God make it happen for a reason. They get to talking all silly when all you had to do was read the book. Solved everything.
Right.
Saved you millions of dollars, thousands of dollars. Say you heartache, disappointment, frustration, weird dreams at night, sleepless nights, all kind of stuff. No. All this stuff that come from the anguish of going through the process of divorce.
He made it that easy.
When all you had to do was get the book.
That's right.
Yeah.
But we don't have that much foresight, right? Most folks don't have that kind of foresight to see that from reading this book could cause my life. But taking 31 days, this is 31-day divorce. For taking 31 days, most folks, I guarantee you, if you read it, you won't be able to wait 31 days.
Right.
It won't take you 31 days because you're gonna want it. Because man, this thing get better and better. It's like reading something that could take up to 31 days could change your marriage for a lifetime. We don't see that.
Right.
But that's what it'll do.
Right. So get the book.
So get it.
So get it. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. All the links will be in the description. Make sure you make sure you hit the notification bell, and we will see you next week.